Okay, so today's Excel lesson, in my opinion, it's really exciting and fun, but maybe I'm just a big old nerd. But I think you guys are going to be kind of wowed by the stuff that you learned today because I'm assuming you haven't done this before. We're going to start using formulas in Excel to automate math, and it'll do math for you. Okay, it's a little bit tricky, but once you figure it out, it starts to click in your head, and you're going to use this a lot. I don't know if any of you are really interested in like getting into a finance field someday, accounting, anything like that, but you will, I guarantee, in any of that kind of work, be using spreadsheets in Excel, okay, and doing this kind of work. But even if you don't, like, I'm not in finance, I'm a teacher. I use some of this to do some of the other work that I do, like Spirit Shop and running a youth program. Like, you need to know these things, and once you do and you practice them, it'll be something very helpful for you. So if you guys could all please reopen your class notes. Let's reopen your class notes because there are just a few things I'd like to add to those today. That's specific to what we will cover in our modules this morning. Okay, so yesterday in the notes that you took, I mentioned that there were 4 different data types in Excel. Like, you could analyze and organize text. You could analyze and organize values, just meaning individual numbers. Or you could use formulas and functions. Today, before we start with formulas, which is what we'll only cover today, I want to introduce to you both formulas and functions. Define what these things are, what's the difference, and what do they really do for us. All right, guys at home, are you all with me? Hopefully nobody's having tech issues. If anything comes up while you're in this call, please get on your cell phone that I'm sure you have cell service on and let me know that you're dropping out because today's lesson is it's going to be hard to do on your own. Okay, so first, in our notes, if you guys could put these definitions of what a formula and a function are, and we'll talk about these. Formulas and functions are both data types, but they're doing the same thing but in a different way. Formulas are custom calculations that the user, you have to manually type these things in. Okay, so if we're trying to find out, to solve a math equation in Excel, and you're using a formula, you kind of have to have an idea in your head how to write out that math problem or that equation with a formula. The cool thing about it and why it's still, you might be thinking like, well, geez, I still have to like know how to do the math. Well, you just need to know how to do it once. And when you're working with a workbook or a worksheet or a spreadsheet in Excel here, you may be working with loads of data, hundreds and hundreds of rows of numbers that you need to calculate something for. You only have to know how to do that one time for like the first row, and then you can use the magic of Excel to copy that formula, and it'll instantly, in a flash, answer thousands of rows of data for you. Okay, but that's a formula. You have to know how to do the math problem, how to set it up, but once you do it once, it could be copied. Okay, now a function, same situation. Okay, so it's going to do math for you, except these functions are like canned formulas inside the application that were already kind of programmed. So you don't have to think about how you would type it out and teach the computer how to do it. Here's an example. A commonly used function when you're doing math would be the function for averaging. Right? If I'm like putting all of my grades into a spreadsheet instead of using like a grading program like the portal, and I have like all these cells and rows and columns of grades, if I wanted to find out a student average at the end of a row of data, I would just have to put in a function that's called average, and it'll figure it out. It knows that average would be adding all of the grades together and then dividing by the amount of grades possible, right? You wouldn't have to type that math problem or equation out, is what I'm saying. Another one that you can use, like if I had all of my test data for the Microsoft Excel exam in a column, and I wanted to see at the bottom of that column what the highest and lowest grades were in the class, I can use a function that will just identify, what the actual formula would be to find the maximum and minimum scores. All right, when we get into functions, which will be next week's class, this is probably Miss Cornfield. It's easier to understand that when you see it. Excuse me,
it's easier to understand that when you see it. Excuse me, just a second. Hello?
Sure. Sure. Yep, it's me. All right, hold on a minute. Miss Cornfield's working in the spirit shop and has a question.
Miss Cornfield's looking at
Hi.
the spirit shop and has a question.
Hi.
It's okay.
We don't need me to cover you. We don't need me to cover you.
Oh my gosh, I'll be right there. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, hey guys, can you just hold on a second? I'll be right back.
Hey guys, can
Do you mind just babysitting for a second? Thank you.
Do you mind just babysitting for a second? Thank you.
Guys working on Sal. You guys working on Sal.
Well, I don't have Tatum today, so it'll only be on.
Oh, where's Tatum?
She's in a different launch.
Oh, she's in another one.
So the Tuesday, we have to be on Tuesdays.
Who would you sit by?
On Tuesdays? For sure.
Today.
I literally ran there and back.
I
Okay.
literally ran
Hi.
there and back.
Good thing I ran 3 miles every day over spring
Hi.
break.
I
Boom.
ran 3 miles every
Okay,
day over the
where are we at here? Formulas and functions, we already talked about the
Okay.
difference. Let's move on.
Where are we at here? Formulas and functions, we already talked about the
Hold on
difference.
just a second. Okay, cell reference. You guys wrote this definition yesterday. You don't need to copy it again.
You guys wrote this down.
But just a reminder,
Copy it again.
cell reference, cell address is just letting us know that every little box on a worksheet has its own identity. And it's defined by the column letter and the row number. So when we're writing formulas and functions, and you're trying to figure out math, you're never going to type in the exact values or numbers that you see inside cells. You're going to use the cell reference so that anytime data in your spreadsheet is changing or updating, the calculations will automatically be updated and be accurate. When we get into today's module, you'll see that in action. So just a reminder again, when you have an active cell, it's highlighted with that frame. And the cell reference or cell address is always posted in the top left corner of the interface here. And it's again the column letter and then the column or the row number. Okay, moving on. Just some things that hopefully you maybe already have used, but maybe not. When you're doing math digitally, plus and minus, addition, subtraction, the symbols are the same. But if you want to multiply inside Excel or anything digitally, you're going to use the asterisk symbol on your keyboard. So asterisk stands for multiplication. The forward slash is for division. We're not using exponents. I mean, that's for some really advanced stuff, but it's on this graphic. So you can see that if you're using exponents digitally, you use that caret up. When we're working with formulas and functions, to let the computer know, give it a heads up that I'm about to do some math, you always have to put an equal sign first. Okay, put that in your notes. An equal sign will always start a formula or a function. Yes, the application, the computer is super smart. It's going to figure out the answers for you, but it won't even really know that we're doing math unless you tell it by starting off that cell data with an equal sign. So when we're working today through these modules, you're going to see it's amazing how just instantly the program can do all this work for us, but it's still very literal. It's going to take the math problems that you type out very literally, and you need to make sure that you're coaching it through by always remembering your equal sign first. Okay, so let's go into Teams, guys. In Teams, I posted an assignment called Excel Formulas. All right, Excel Formulas has 2 different documents inside there. We're going to be working on the one that has the word intro in the title. Intro formulas. So if you guys could click on the 3 dots and open that in Excel, the desktop app. So open it in Excel. And right away, let's go to File, Save As, and save a copy. Click the cloud so it goes into your OneDrive, and rename it your last name, Intro Form 21. Intro Form 21. People at home, are you with me? I hope. Sorry for the delay. I had to go help Miss Cornfield. All right, so we opened up our first document here in Excel, and it's this one.
document here in Excel, and it's this one.
A few things I want to point out before we even get started. On this workbook, there are two worksheet tabs at the bottom of the sheet here. Do you see how we have sheet 1 and challenge? Okay, we're going to do work in both of these, the sheet 1 and challenge. So make sure that you're following with me so you know when to click over on the other worksheet tab. But we're going to begin on sheet 1. Next, let's just look at what we're dealing with here. Okay, so today in all of the module work we do, your job is you work for like a food and catering distribution company. Do you have a question, Gina? Plug it in. Yeah. Anywhere you want. That power strip, doesn't work, but you can plug directly into the floor. Okay, so we work for this company that like supplies food and napkins, cups, silverware, plastic silverware and stuff too, like food trucks and food carts all across Illinois. Okay, and it's all like Mexican food, and wait till you see some of the stuff on here. It's gonna make you hungry. But what we do as part of our job with this company, this distribution company, is that we have to put together bills and invoices for our clients. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here. And what we have to do is figure out some math so that we could send this to the company that's ordering and we'll get paid, right? Here's the thing. All of our invoicing here on the spreadsheet is getting automatically filled and updated all the time from some outside database. Like the people are ordering on a website and then it loads that stuff into our spreadsheet automatically. Okay, it's like a synced situation. So there might be times where people put in their order, they're like, oh, in a couple weeks, for this month we're going to need this stuff, and they might put the order in. Then a few days later, they may change their mind and decide they need more or less of something and switch it. Well, if we set up our Excel spreadsheet to use formulas to figure out math, anybody could go in and change quantities, or big time suppliers could change the price per unit on these different items, and any changes that get made, the math part will just automatically be changed and updated. Okay, so let's look here. We're in cell D4. In cell D4, we need to find out what the total would be for this line, the plastic silverware box of 100. Well, the people want 15 boxes, and each box is $8.75. What's the math we need to do to figure out what the line total, the price for 15 boxes would be? Caitlin, do you know how to do that? Like, what's the math? Caitlin, do you know how to do that? No. Like, what's the math? Yes, you do. If I'm trying to find out what the total is, if they want 15 boxes that are $8.75 each, how do I figure out how much that costs? Yeah, you multiply. See, it's really not that hard. Okay, so we're going to multiply, right? 15 times this price of $8.75. But I told you guys already, you don't just type the values in. We need to use cell references. Step 1. Every time we put in a formula, we begin with an equal sign. When we put in an equal sign, now Excel knows it's time to calculate and get nerdy. Here we go. Okay, so I want to multiply these two numbers. I'm going to type in the cell reference for this quantity of 15. What's the cell reference for that cell? What's the cell reference for that? Anyone? Even at home. Gina?
Is it B4?
Yep, it's B4. So when I type in B4, it even highlights that cell, so I know that I'm working with that, okay? What was the symbol on our keyboard that we use for multiplication? Asterisk. And I'm multiplying by the cell reference C4. So you should put in D4 equal sign B4 asterisk C4. Hit enter on your keyboard, and it calculated the line total for you.
And it calculated
It's great.
the line.
What if they changed their mind and they decided, you know what, we actually had some in our inventory, we don't need 15 boxes of this silverware, we only need 11. If you click on this cell B4 and you just type in 11 and hit enter, your line total will automatically update with that change. So click on B4, type 11, and when you hit enter, you'll see that D4 changes by itself magically. All right, make sure you do that. Make that change. The same thing would happen if I changed the price. Okay, it would automatically change it because this cell D4 is not just based on the values that are input here. It's based on whatever will appear inside these cell references. All right, something else I wanted to show you guys. When you click on this line total cell on D4, up in our formula bar, you're going to see the actual formula you typed in, equals B4 times C4. Here's where it gets awesome. Like, this is a small order. It's only 4 things. We probably could type it in and it wouldn't take that much time. But what if we had like 200 rows of stuff getting ordered for like all of the Chili's restaurants in South Side of Chicago or whatever? It would be a lot to keep typing and typing. So we're going to use the Force, Harry Potter's magic wand, aka the fill handle. So if you guys hover over the fill handle, that's that little dot at the bottom right corner of our cell, your cursor turns into a plus sign. You're going to click hold and drag down the next 3 cells, and when you release, poof, math done. I hope you're impressed. It's pretty awesome. I mean, it would be a lot more impressive if we were dealing with 100 rows of data and it just did that for you, but still, just imagine it that way. Okay, let's do one more change here. Like, let's change the plates box of 50 price per unit. Let's change that $14.25 that's in cell C6, and let's just make it $14 and hit enter, and you see that it updated our price for that line. Next step, we need to find out what the total cost is for this small order. I'm going to activate cell D8, and I'm going to write in or type in a formula. But I'm going to teach you guys another little trick. So we start off with the equal sign, right? Always equals first, which is backwards with the way that we write math, but computers aren't people. They need to have an indication like this. Okay, so this time, if we wanted to add these 4 cells, we could type in D4 plus D5 plus D6, but you could also just click on the cell. So if you just click on D4, it'll type it for you. Then you will have to type on the plus sign. Then click on D5, type plus, click on D6, type plus, and click on D7. You should have this equals D4 plus D5 plus D6 plus D7. When you hit enter, boom, total is calculated. So maybe in your head you're thinking, you keep talking about like how awesome this would be if you had 200 rows of data to add up. It would take me forever to have to click on every square. Well, here's the deal. That's where functions come in. Functions, those like pre-canned calculations. If we had 200 numbers, 200 cells we wanted to add up, you would just have to go to the bottom of that column, put in a function that says find the sum, and it would do it automatically. Okay, you wouldn't have to click on all of the individual cells. We'll do that next time. Okay, guys, let's come down here. We have a June and July budget. In this total box here in D12, can you by yourselves type in the formula to find the total of our June and July budgets? You know what I really need to get is a wireless, like a Bluetooth keyboard. I'm stuck back here behind this desk so I could type all these numbers out. It's kind of a bummer. Okay, did anybody get it? Do you want to tell me what the formula was, Ella?
Okay, did anybody get it? Do you
Sure.
wanna tell me what the, formula was, Ella?
No, I have a
Go into the cell,
when
the green like highlighted
go
part
into
goes
the cell,
over
the
my July
green like
budget, so then I
highlighted
can't
part over
pop up
my July budget, so then I can't.
photos.
Yeah, that happened on some people's computers. I don't think it happens on my desktop, but it happened on my laptop. It's still, that cell is still there, but you can't click on it. So you could just type it in that case. Okay, so just type in whatever. I don't want to give the answer away. Who got this? Who can tell me what to insert here? Gina.
Who got this? Who can tell me what to insert?
Or like what to do.
The formula.
Oh, it would be D
The, formula.
Wait,
and
is it
equal
just,
sign,
yeah,
D10
Is it
plus D11.
all right, so you should have D10 plus D11. Hit enter. Did you guys get 2,700? Now let's think about this. Like, it would probably take you less time to just add those two numbers in your head than it would be to type in the formula. But remember why we use these formulas. It's because on a spreadsheet like something like this that could be changing fluidly all the time, if we don't use a formula, that total number will not always be accurate. When you use formulas and functions, no matter what changes are made to values, it'll always be the correct information. Any questions on the sheet 1 module? Kids at home, you good?
Any questions on the sheet 1 module?
Let's click down on the worksheet tab for the challenge.
Let's click down on the worksheet tab for the challenge.
This is pretty much like the same activity, right? We're now this time though, instead of selling like paper goods, we're selling or charging, invoicing our people for food. Like, look at this, empanadas filled with Nutella and banana. I can't even. Do you know what an empanada is? It's almost like crispy, it's like a pizza pocket kind of, but it's fried with Nutella, warm Nutella and banana on the inside. Put some like whipped cream or powdered sugar on that. Forget about it. Okay, let's do some formulas. So to find out our line totals, we just want to multiply again, right? So we'll do our equal sign, and we could just click and then put in our math symbols and hit enter. Once you do it one time, we don't have to think about it anymore. It worked out well. Let's grab our fill handle and drag down the next 3. So, I'm looking at this now, and it's like, okay, looks good. There was already a formula in the total cell in D8. I hope it's right, because I didn't type in that formula. How can I check it? How can I check that formula in D8? Caitlin.
You look at the formula bar.
I click on it and look at the formula bar. Oh. Ooh. Okay, wait. It says equals D4 plus D5 plus D6. Somebody's getting an unnecessary discount because in this formula we forgot to include D7, right? So add a plus sign, click on D7, and now hit enter. This is what I'm talking about. Like, the computer is so literal. It's only going to do what you tell it to do. Sometimes you have to really go back and double check your work to make sure the whole operation isn't falling apart. Okay, if yours looks like mine, go ahead and do an insurance save, Control S. Pop back into the assignment in Teams. Add that assignment, but do not turn in. Let's add our intro document. That's your name. And don't turn in. We're going to do the next one together. on the three dots next to complex formulas,
Okay, so click on
open
the
it
three
in
dots
Excel,
complex formulas. Open it in Excel,
and then we're gonna name it Comp Form 21.
and then we're gonna name it Comp Form 21.
Okay, so complex formulas, it's getting a little bit harder this time around. And because of that, I do want to show you guys the video from the webpage, just as like some extra help.
From the webpage,
How
just
come
as
this
like
happens
some
to me all
extra help.
sometimes? My mouse turned into like this weird little dot.
My mouse turned into
Like, do you see this? How it's like a dot with a little arrow? How come that won't go away?
See this? Has like a dot with a little arrow. How can that one go away?
Oh, I'm gonna do that. Still doing it, guys. Got it. Okay, here we go. Video. Let's watch.
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
You may already have some experience creating simple formulas that have only one type of operation. But sometimes you have to create more complex formulas that do have more than one operator, for example, addition and multiplication. To do this correctly, you'll need to understand how Excel is calculating the answer. When solving formulas, Excel uses a set of rules called the order of operations, which you might remember from math class. The order of operations determines the order in which the formula will be calculated, so you know exactly how to write it out. The first thing that's calculated are any equations in parentheses. Then, if you have any exponents, you'll calculate those. Next is multiplication and division. And finally, addition and subtraction. Excel knows to use the order of operations whenever it calculates a complex formula. It's important that you remember it so you can create formulas that'll give you the correct answer. To remember the order, you can just use the acronym PEMDAS. Or to make it even easier, remember the phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Let's take a closer look at some examples. In this formula, 5 plus 2 is in parentheses. So we'll calculate that first to get 7, and then we can just multiply 3 times 7 to get 21. This formula contains an exponent, 3 to the power of 2. We'll need to calculate that first, and then we can do the addition.
It's like, are you getting the point here? The computer will, you have to use like the order of operations, or the computer's just gonna go left to right. So if you didn't, use the right symbols and stuff, it would just be adding the 3 plus 1 first, and then if it did something with a 2, it could be completely wrong. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're setting up your equations properly.
If you have multiplication or division, that'll come next. Here we multiply 2 times 4 to get 8, and 9 minus 8 equals 1. Now multiplication and division are considered to be on the same level. That means if you have both of them in your formula, they're calculated from left to right. In this example, we'll do the division first, and then the multiplication. If we wanted the multiplication to happen first, we could just put it in parentheses, or we could rearrange the formula so the multiplication was on the left. Finally, we have addition and subtraction. Just like multiplication and division, these are on the same level, so we'll calculate them from left to right. Okay, now let's put them all together. This formula may look really complicated, but we're just going to go step by step through the order of operations, and you'll see that it's really not that bad. We'll start with the parentheses. We'll calculate each of these to get 2 and 3. And as you can see, the formula's already starting to look a bit simpler. Next, we'll look to see if there are any exponents in this formula. There is one, 2 to the second power. When we calculate it, it becomes 4. Next, we'll do the multiplication and division, going from left to right. And now all that's left is addition. And that gives us our answer, which is 8.75. And that's the same answer Excel would give you if you entered that formula in your worksheet. Now I'm going to show you why it's so important that you follow the order of operations every time. If you don't, your formulas won't give you the correct answer. In this example, I'd like to add these 3 values and find out how much the sales tax will be. I'll start by typing the equal sign, which is how you always start a formula. Then I'll calculate D3 plus D4 plus D5. Next, I'll multiply by 0.075, which is the tax rate at 7.5%. Now, this may look like it's going to give us the correct answer, but it's not.
Who is smarty pants and can figure out why we're going to get the wrong answer here? So you know, like when we're trying to figure out just how much money they're going to put for tax, you have to add up what your subtotal is here, and then you multiply it by the tax rate. And the tax rate that they're using in the example and that we'll use on the modules is 7.5%. So we're moving our decimals 2 to the left. What's wrong here? Why will this give us an incorrect answer in Excel? Caitlin, why do we need to put the parentheses? What's going to happen first here? I'm right, but the way that it's up here currently on this worksheet, because Excel thinks in the order of operations, it's going to do the multiplication first. So it's going to multiply that tax rate only by D5, and then it will add the other 2, and that's not accurate, right? So we want it to first add those 3 values together and multiply that total by 0.075.
That's because we didn't follow the order of operations. Remember, multiplication comes before addition, so Excel is going to multiply D5 by 0.075 first. Then it'll add D3 and D4, which isn't what we want. We want these 3 values to be added first. So to do that, we just need to put them in parentheses. Parentheses are often the best way of controlling which parts of the formula are calculated first. And when this formula is calculated, we can see that the answer is $20.56. Writing complex formulas really isn't that difficult once you know how they work. Just remember to use the order of operations and you'll get the correct answer every time.
Okay, let's try it. So on that practice document, complex formulas. We're still doing the same job. Okay, we work for this distribution company, and we're writing up invoices to charge our customers, our clients. Okay, they already did the math. Did they do this, or is this just on mine? Does yours have these filled in already? Okay, cool. So this was like what she just did in that example in the video. To find out what 7.5% tax would be, we have to first add these to find our subtotal and then multiply by the tax rate. Okay, so let's put in our equal sign. We know that we're going to add these 3 first, so let's go directly to our parentheses. Look at that little frowny face. Okay, then I could click on D3, type a plus, click on D4, type a plus, click on D5, and finish my parentheses.
click on D5.
So already I know, since the P in PEMDAS is the first thing, the parentheses, this is gonna be figured out first by the computer. To find out the tax, I'm gonna multiply by the decimal of our tax rate. So we'll multiply, and if the tax is 7.5%, what's my decimal again?
And if the tax is 7.5%, what's my decimal?
You move the decimal 2 to the left, so it's
Move the
0.075.
decimal 2 to the left, so it's 0.075.
So your formula in D6 should look like what I have.
Your formula in D6
Hit enter.
should look like what I have.
And we find out that the tax that will be charged on this order is $20.56.
And we find out that the tax that will be charged on this order is $20.
Down below that in D7, I need to find the sum total of all of these, my subtotal plus tax. So let's hit it up, equals, and start clicking and add.
And start clicking and add.
And once you add those 4 cells, you can hit
And
enter.
once you add those 4 cells, you can hit enter.
All right, I want you guys to watch something happen. If we go into cell C5, the quantity of the Nutella and banana empanadas,
The quantity.
they found out that Miss Moss is a big fat slob and is putting everybody out of inventory. They need to double the amount of these empanadas.
They need to double.
So if I changed my quantity here to 80 and I hit enter, I want you guys to see that 3 things, 3 automations will happen. If I change this to 80, it's going to change my line total automatically. It's going to change my tax automatically and my total. All right, go for it. Type in 80 there, hit enter, boom.
Hit enter.
I mean, it's pretty awesome that all of that stuff then is just always going to be correct and accurate no matter what changes are made to the actual data. Let's come down here on the bottom to the worksheet tab called catering subtotal. They're tricking us. This invoice looks different, right? It's missing a column that has our line total, but still wants us to figure out our subtotal and our tax right here in column C. You see what I mean? We have our unit price and our quantity, but no column that shows a line total. So if we wanted to find out our subtotal of these 2 items, first we have to find out what the line totals would be. So let's hit our equal sign. And we're going to do our multiplication for our poblano and cheese empanadas. And we're going to add the product here of our spicy sweet potato empanadas. So our subtotal is going to be, both of these products. If I take a look at my formula, I know the computer will identify PEMDAS, and first things first, it's going to multiply the 2 multiplication pieces. And then after it does that math and gets the product, it will add those 2 together. So if I hit enter, that is correct. My subtotal is 143.45. Right. Now I'm just going to add what the tax would be onto this. This is tricky. All right, so equal sign, duh. We always know that. You'll never screw that part up. Equal sign first. To figure out how much the amount of tax will be, what am I multiplying together here? And remember, we're at 7.5% tax. What do I multiply to find out the dollar amount of tax?
What do I multiply to find out the dollar amount of tax?
Bueller? Anyone at home? You are some smart people. I know you know
Anyone at
this.
home? You are some smart people. I know you know this.
Okay, remember, we're going to take our subtotal. So you could just click on cell C5, and you're going to multiply it by our tax rate, 0.075.
point.
That's gonna give us the tax that needs to be added on, but they're asking me for the total plus the tax.
They're asking me for the total.
So really what I wanna do is add
So
the
really what I
subtotal
wanna do is
again.
add the subtotal again.
What I like to do, guys, it's not necessary because the computer's gonna read this and it's always gonna do the multiplication before the addition.
The computer's gonna
But
read this,
just
it's
to be
always
like
gonna do the
organized,
multiplication before the
I would wanna put my
But just to be like
find the
organized,
tax amount
I
in
would wanna put
parentheses.
my
It's just kind of a cleaning
find
it up,
the
right?
tax amount.
It's breaking this up to show me that I'm looking for, you know, what my total is plus what the
It's
tax
breaking
will
this up to show me that I'm looking
So
for
as you
what
can
my
see,
total
you're
is
able to
plus
double
what the
dip
tax
on cells.
So as
You
can
can
see,
use
you're
the
able
same
to
cell
double
twice
dip on
inside a
cells.
formula.
You
Alright,
can
hit
use the
enter.
same cell twice
Boom,
inside a
154.21.
Alright, hit enter, boom, 154.21.
Anybody need a repeat? Did you see all these?
Anybody need a repeat? Did you see all
I
these?
failed to mention this in the beginning. When I'm going through and grading these modules for you guys, since I'm practically giving you the answers, I go in and I click around on all of your input formula cells and I make sure that I'm seeing an actual formula. Okay, like if you're just waiting for me to do the work and you just type in the value, the answer, you're not getting credit for the assignment. The entire point is you're learning how to use formulas. So I can't assess you and give you points on using formulas if you just type in the answers. Okay? So you know. Let's go to the challenge worksheet tab, our last one.
Let's go to the challenge worksheet tab, our last
I learn a lot every time I do this little module, this tab, because I'm not gonna lie. I go to a store and it says like 15% off. And that means like absolutely zero to me. Like I can't ever figure out what 15% off of something is. But if I wanted to, I could figure it out on a spreadsheet. Let's do this. We're gonna figure out what the tax amount is, what the total with the tax will be, and then what a total would be if we gave them a 10% off discount. Let's pretend that this client of ours is, you know, really loyal. We've been working with them forever. We're gonna give them this 10% off on this work. Right? So first things first, we can already see that they put in the formulas to find the line totals and they are accurate. So we're gonna find out what 7.5% tax is on this total. Equal sign. In parentheses, I'm gonna add up my line totals.
In parentheses, I'm gonna add up my line totals.
I'm gonna multiply by my decimal
I'm gonna multiply
for the
by
tax
my
rate.
decimal for the tax rate.
Look at my screen, double check your work.
Look at my screen, double check your work.
When you hit enter or return, you find out that your tax is $24.15.
When you hit enter or return, you find out that your tax is $24.15.
Right, now for the total, I know that I'm just really at this point gonna add all of these 5 cells together. This is pretty basic with formulas. You're gonna hit the equal sign and start adding all of these cells.
You're gonna hit the equal sign and start adding all of these cells.
D3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
When I hit enter, I see that my grand total here is $346.10, and I want to give them 10% off as a discount. Does anybody know how to figure that out? Math, like what the math equation would be for that? There's always like really smart people who know how to do it. I mean, I know how to do it just because I've done this 17 times already. But do you guys know how to figure it out? 10% off of that, how would you set up the math equation?
10% off of that, how would you set up the math equation?
I would never know either. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna hit the equal sign. We're gonna take our total. It's hard to see because it's blue here, but it says D8. And I'm gonna multiply by 0.90. Because what I'm telling the computer is I want 90% to be charged of that total, because I took 10% off of the 100, right? So it equals D8 times 0.90. Hit enter, and your final answer, the final charge for these people is $311.49. Got it? Okay, so now on your final, the project for Excel, you're gonna have to do stuff just like this. Okay, where you need to calculate, use some formulas to calculate math. You can use your fill handle to copy them down. And then, well, there won't be anything with like figuring out discounts. That's me. Like that's math class. That's not part of my curriculum. But you'll have to know how to figure out at least like basic calculations and use your fill handle. Any repeats?
Miss Moss,
Yes.
can you go back to catering invoice and show how to get the tax?
This part, the total with tax, Amory?
No, just the subtotal.
Oh, the subtotal? Because they didn't have like a line total, we had to just kind of put them in separately here. So to find the line total for each of these, we would multiply the quantity times the price. And then we would just add both of these rows, quantity times price, to get the answer.
No, can you go back to the catering invoice sheet, spreadsheet? That one, and then get the tax.
Right, so the tax is, you're just going to first add up to get your subtotal. And then multiply by the tax rate 0.075. Your numbers might look different than mine if you did not change the quantity of cell C5 to 80. Gotta change that to 80 to make yours match with mine. Okay. Any other questions? Excellent. Let's save it, add it, turn it in. I'm ending the recording for this lesson. Adios.